Those people coming in from Jamaica or coming in from Africa, they have not been treated like black folk in this country. That's the first thing. And secondly, historically, they haven't had those historical experiences. They come in here voluntarily. When they come in here, they bring some cultural aspects from Africa. They can go back anytime they want. The people coming from Africa or coming from Jamaica didn't. They came here voluntarily. And the most important point on this is if you lump them with black folk, then you give the dominant white society a justification to say we don't owe black folk anything. Blackness is more than just color. It is their heritage. It's their history. It's their code of conduct. And more importantly, it is their badge of honor. And it's what it symbolizes the indebtedness that this country has to them. This country does not have any indebtedness to people coming from Africa. They don't have any indebtedness to people coming in from the Bahamas. If you lump black folk in there, you deprive black folk of the benefit, the debt that's owed them.
Monahan came up with a policy by the late 60s saying, or early 70s saying, it's time for us to move from focusing on black folk to focus on Indians, Hispanics, and women.
Now, when immigrants come in, watch the benefits they get. They go past black folk at 200 miles an hour. They do better right here in Chocolate City. Now, they're underneath the immigrants. Immigrants, they come in the country, they get a point over black folk for being an immigrant. Blacks are the only non-immigrant. Two, they classified, all of them are classified as whites. The Arabs, Asian, Hispanic, they all been reclassified as whites. Even American Indians back in the 1890s became classified as whites. They get a point, that's the second point. They get over black folk in getting access to resources and benefits. The third thing they get the benefits of being put into a minority category. They're classified as minorities over black folk. Thirdly, they come in with a culture that they can establish a culture, that they can now build businesses and industries and relate back to their homeland. And lastly, what they can do, they also bring in a religious aspect and business opportunities for their people. Black folk get nothing. And they can come in and take and dominate black folk.
Because they keep trying to create allies with them. You cannot ally with anybody who's planning on supplanting you. If you check the National Hispanic Defense League, if you check the National Hispanic Party, the first thing that all of them have is to change the issues in this country from white and black to white and Hispanic. They're planning on supplanting you. When the National Hispanic Party started in Miami, that was the first item on their agenda, saying by the year 2000, they want to take blacks out of the equation. That's why they control South Florida.
Hispanics are whites passing as they're whites. They've always been whites. Up until 1970, all Hispanics in the United States and the world were classified as whites. They're just white folks speaking Spanish. And so they can come in all they want to. They can come in illegal or legal and get into the country. But see, they even come in from Cuba. When Castro cleaned out the prisons, he put to clean out all the prisoners in Cuba and put them on boats and send them to the United States. And the United States accepted them. And now they're talking about black folk. Well, black folk got criminal. They got crime.
Don't even waste your time even chasing affirmative action anymore. It's been destroyed. It was supposed to be helping black folk. How do we become equal to blacks? And that's when the Hispanics jumped up this thing called Hispanic, the concept. Before that, we didn't have anything called Hispanic. But they thought in the early 60s that black folk might get some out of the civil rights movement. So what they did, they went to the table and came up with a whole term called Hispanic. They said, let's go all over the world and find everybody that speaks Spanish and pretend they're equal to black folk. And let's pretend that the Spanish language has been handicapped, Jim Crowed, enslaved, hung, lynched, decapitated, and everything else, and therefore is entitled to be treated like a black person.
We're trying to save everybody. Why has always got black folk marching, trying to save it? We're marching for gays. We're marching for women. We're marching for poor people. We're marching for the handicapped. Why when all these immigrants coming here and building industries and businesses and blacks were slaves? Why didn't they rise? Because they were excluded. You also are talking about Rosa Parks and Martin Luther King going down to Alabama, want to integrate the bus lines. Integrate whose bus lines? White bus lines. What they want? They didn't want to own and control and get the resource. They just want to sit on the front of it.
I never thought about that. That whole time they did the boycott, they should have been trying to establish their own bus company as opposed to wanting to ride. Y'all boycotted for a year just to want to ride on the front?
The black folk just never learned the importance of owning and controlling. You'll never get anything until you started demanding. That's why no Arabs, no Asians, no Hispanics, nobody's coming to America trying to socially integrate with black folk. Spend your money with your own people first. Buy from your own people first. Hispanic bounce their money on an average of 6 to 7 times in Mexican time. Little Havana, little Cuba. White folk typically bounce their money 8 to 12 times. Arabs and Asians bounce their money about 13 or 14 times. Jews bounce their money about 18 times. Black money doesn't bounce once. As soon as a black person gets paid, he runs straight to somebody else's business and give them the money. That's why 1 out of every Asian has a business. 1 out of every 35 whites have a business. 1 out of every 53 Hispanics have a business. Only 1 out of about 105 blacks have a business.
Well, I want blacks to get out of affirmative action and go for reparations. And put your own self-interest first. And then what you do then, you say, I want to also rebuild my own communities. Go back and rebuild your own communities. Put your own businesses in there. A community is where you store your values, your culture, your history, your tax base, your jobs, and your employment opportunities. You store them in your own communities. That's why 98% of all these other groups, they have their own communities, spend their money with their own people, and you start practicing group economics and group politics. You pull out all the parties, build your own black independent parties, move away from the Republican Party, pull out the Democratic Party, because neither one of them have your interests at heart, and create your own parties, but don't run any candidates. So we will vote for any candidate in the National Black Independent Party who would promise the most and deliver resources to black folk to correct the structural inequity we're into.